Hi everybody, and welcome to Charger 360, telling the stories of the University of New Haven. J.W. Stewart along with Bruce Barber. Again, Bruce, I said this in the last episode, season 4. Where has the time gone?
Unbelievable. It has flown by because I cherish my time with you, Jim.
Thank you. It's not
you're
right, it's not the same when we're not together.
No, it's not.
And at least for the viewing audience, they get to see us every week at this time.
That's exactly right. So we have a new innovation this year. We're giving a little context to who we are because we make the assumption, at least I do, that everyone knows who Bruce Barber is and who J.W. Stewart is, but your quick introduction.
I thought it was just because we were handsome enough to be on camera.
That's what I thought too, but apparently we were both mistaken.
Yeah, apparently. Well, we actually do have some credentials.
Yes, we do.
So I teach here at the University of New Haven in our sport management program. I have my master's degree from the University of New Haven in sport management. But prior to my time in higher education, I was a sports media journalist. I worked for 12 years at ESPN and another 4 at NBC.
And I'm the general manager of 88.7 WNHU, our award-winning radio station here at the University of New Haven. And before that, I was a shock jock.
Our guest today, Bruce, actually needs no introduction.
No,
but we're going to introduce him anyhow.
That's right, yes.
It's Jens Frederiksen. Jens is the president of the University of New Haven. Jens, it's great to see you.
I'm thrilled to be back. Yeah.
Just voted most Instagram-friendly president in the free world.
Is that official?
Yes, it is. Well, I made it up.
It is now.
But, yeah, exactly.
It is now. So Jens has been kind enough to be on the program a number of times over the years since he's been here, and we try to start or somewhere at the beginning of the season or the end of the season. So the last time you were here in March, we covered a lot of ground. A lot has changed here at the University of New Haven, and a lot of positive change at the University of New Haven since you were last here in March. Let's start with the move to Division I athletics. Give us a peek behind the curtain and tell us the story of how this happened and why it happened.
All right, so we're jumping straight into athletics.
Yes,
we said right into the deep end, right?
Right into the deep end.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we know no other way, right? Around here, it's all the deep end. So, I mean, I think, so maybe let me take a step back and say this is sort of a wonderful exemplar of how unprophetic I am as a leader. Back when I was interviewed for the role, there was an ongoing conversation that I think had been it had reached its peak and around whether the university should be Division I, and I was sort of one to say I felt like there was a lot of, and I commented on this in the search, a lot of sort of turmoil in the NCAAs. I mean, not unfamiliar with it. I was a college athlete at a D1 school once. It's hard to imagine, right?
Tennis player of some note, Jacob.
At Vanderbilt University.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think if you look at what's going on in college athletics, it's a really complicated world. In this regard, it's no real different than higher education writ large, right? And so I felt like it was sort of a time to just take a step back and kind of watch where the dynamics shake out. And in some ways, they're not shaking out anyway, right? We're no wiser and yet having spent sort of the entire year on campus walking around, being familiar with that environment, in many ways it did feel sort of easy to forget that we were in Division I, right? So much prep work had gone into it. So many of the sports were sort of driven by a real competitive appetite. And so I think as you constantly look at dynamics that are shifting, same as higher education, the athletic world, we sort of encountered a moment where there was a lot of uncertainty in the division that we were in and the conference. And sort of you're always thinking about both sort of the incredible upside, but you're also always looking at the downside, right? That's the nature of higher education and this sort of rapid pace of change that you always got to keep an eye out on the what if, right? And we see this reflected on international students, right? The what if. Thankfully, we were not behind that curve, and so on and so forth. Same on research funding and so on and so forth. And so we looked at this scenario, and we'd obviously hired a new athletic director who I heard has been on the show.
Yes.
I sort of insisted I should be on before he is because nobody wants to go after Devin.
No such luck.
Yeah, no such luck. I feel like that's my curse. Everywhere I go, I'm always preceded by... and so Devin and I sort of had some conversations and obviously sort of roped the leadership team in and there was a very real scenario in which athletics being such a fundamental component of this university, of the entire experience, of the competitive atmosphere and sort of the infrastructure and how we're positioned, and there was a very real risk that we could be faced with a scenario where we may be divisionless, given certain schools that were, I mean, you hear things through the grapevine, and sometimes you get a little bit more information than just the grapevine, and so it was clear that I think there were institutions that were looking at possible D3. There are institutions, we all know that, I mean, what is it, the Washington Post says a university goes under once a week these days, right? And so sort of looking at that entire scenario, it became very clear to us that there was a very real opportunity that we could be sort of left having to scramble, and so we began sort of very quickly an exploratory conversation around what would it look like to make this transition, and we sort of had identified, and Devin had some relationships, and I felt like we had so much momentum across the board. I mean, in many ways, we're bucking the trend in sort of almost every category, and I think part of it was I have extraordinary trust in the leaders on this campus. We are sort of a can-do university, and I think that's reflected in the leaders of each and every division, and sort of, so the impossible of, oh, you can't do this, and universities never do it this fast, and that to us is just sort of a challenge, like, yes, we can. So I was then asked to present, and we found a conference that was sort of very supportive, and next thing you know, I had to walk into a meeting and announce. So.
Plus, I must request, if I may, of the president, a fist bump. Because, J-Dub, I'm reading my email this summer, and I find out that we, in addition to having acquired a little piece of real estate, we are going to turn it into a research and development park under the leadership of the former, finish the sentence,
Chief Manufacturing Officer of the state of Connecticut.
What a hire.
Yeah.
What a hire. Tell us about that.
Well, that's another one of those, right, where it all happens very quickly. So obviously the sort of former, and I'm supposed to sort of drop this language permanently from the vocabulary of railroad salvage.
You notice
I much appreciate it. I fall prey to it nevertheless. 133,000 square foot building that we had acquired, because I think we've really defined the trajectory over the past, and again, this is embedded in the legacy of the University of New Haven, but we've really sort of supercharged this commitment to understanding the intersection of academia, industry, and to some degree sort of government agencies, but really industry and academia, and the urgency around delivering a return on investment for our students. Our students are looking to higher education, and I think this is the mandate across higher education across the board, is if you're going to make this sizable commitment, what beyond A's and B's do I have, right? And there's all these criticisms out there of students paying hundreds of thousands every year, and then after 4 years sort of being like no wiser for it beyond sort of the academic grading. So we've taken on this charge and taken it deeply personal that we're going to deliver on this mandate. And part of that was, I think we have an institution where we have a lot of practitioners who teach. That's part of the magic, right? And we're deeply embedded, and it's not sort of the ivory tower and insularity. It's very much that intersection, and we see where our students go, right? From Medtronic to Pratt to EB to Sikorsky, I mean, RBC. And so we felt like, and we also have a remarkable research profile that's actually in some ways deeply under showcased. We're ranked in the top 5 Connecticut institutions for research. And yet a lot of it is very applied. It's not sort of experimental, it's very applied. It's sort of oriented and driven by industry demand. And so we felt like nowhere else in the country is there an opportunity to actually embed this within the campus of sort of a hands-on learning experience. I got asked in an interview after the announcement that we'd hired Paul, did I do this knowing that I was going to hire Paul? I said, again, not that prophetic, not that visionary. Had you asked me, having met Paul numerous times, and I'm sure he'll be on the show, and you'll know exactly why in like 8 seconds. So again, not visionary. But had you asked me who would be the perfect person to run this, I would have said, well, Paul would be. Wow. I didn't think, but I guess the vision of implementing and putting into action the urgency with which the state and the larger economy as a whole needs that hands-on learning experience and applied research, I think got Paul so excited that I think he likes things that are first in nation, and I'm sure he'll use that. So there we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you were right, Paul will be a guest on a future show this season on Charger 360. So the other big thing that happened this summer is the University of New Haven's continued international expanding. Mm-hmm. Now, the University of New Haven's had a campus in Prato, Italy for many, many years. But the announcement came this summer that we are now going to have a campus in Saudi Arabia. This is huge news on a lot of levels. Jens, tell us the story of what went into this decision and what your vision is for this campus.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, back to sort of what makes the University of New Haven so special is, right, when we talk about an elite workforce, we talk about an elite global workforce. I think we can all agree, and there's no political statement here, but we can, I think, all sort of reconcile with the fact that global is here to stay, right? The immersion, the interconnectedness, the are sort of hard to deny. And so I've always seen it as a tremendous value add of this institution that students get to interact, as much for our domestic students as far as international students. You get to interact firsthand with different perspectives, different economies, different social settings, different cultural environments, different belief systems, and you're going to interact with them whether you're in tech, obviously, in finance, healthcare, global security. I mean, sort of every field part of this infusion of the global is part of the magic that happens on this campus, and that's what we're stepping out and into. So we've traditionally had a long-standing presence of international students. We all know the complexities in the current year around visa slots and sort of a general bottlenecking of that whole process, and we hope that's going to normalize at some point. But I also think that you have to keep a constant eye out towards markets that are booming from an opportunity perspective, right? And whether that's India or Saudi Arabia or elsewhere, everybody is looking for what I would call human capital 2.0. I think with the labor market shifts, with automation and AI and cyber, it's going to be a transforming economy. We can sort of get into what's required of the student, because it's no longer just about like being ready on day one. Because what's ready on day one, or better than ready, as Paul likes to say, better than ready alludes to the fact that day one is one day, but that could shift. You may have to pivot. You may have to have sort of adaptability and skills and perspective that beyond the technical know-how. So we had a long-standing relationship in Saudi over the years. We had been at sort of the forefront, and there was a whole sort of transformation going on there under this heading of Vision 2030 and the Crown Prince's sort of vision for a far more diverse economy that isn't just oil and gas, but right, hospitality, sports, gaming. We see all that. And yet, even there, much like here in advanced manufacturing or applied technology, it's going to take the next generation of talent, because there's a demographic shift that's aging out of the workforce. And particularly when you're ramping up an economy like that in a diversified, it's going to take human capital. And so education is one of those pillars to educate. And we know that traditionally Saudi students have come to the US, and that happens in India, that happens everywhere. And you want to continue that. But there is also an opportunity, given how good we've been at delivering programs on ground. There is an opportunity to sort of launch a series of programs under College of Business and Digital Innovation. And given how far ahead in some ways, a lot of this is based on relationship building and ability to deliver, right? And so we felt like we had a comparative advantage there, given what we'd done in the past and the relationships that we had, that we could go in. And I've been to Riyadh 5 or 6 times. I spoke on the main stage with the Minister of Investment, which was incredibly daunting.
Yeah.
But so in short, it's an incredible opportunity, and over time also for our students, right, of this exchange as the environment settles in.
What a summer he had.
Yeah.
I ate lobster rolls.
Me too.
That was it. You know,
The day I was
good,
home.
Good. The other thing is we're moving the entire business school here to our main campus. So awesome. Talk about that.
Well, I think business is sort of, I mean, of course we know that the core curriculum and arts and sciences is part of the magic of sort of that runs across the gamut of all the professional disciplines, and that sort of mental elasticity and creativity and all. But business is also a key part of, no matter what sector you're in. Business informs from a financial literacy to personal finance to, I mean, it's hard to avoid, right? And our College of Business, the AACSB accredit, has done just a marvelous job. And again, for years and years, they were out in Orange. I have this, and it's not meant in any way, but there's definitely 4 different ways to get there. They all take 25 minutes if you're driving like me.
Yep.
And I think when it was thought out, I think it was more at a time where you had executive MBAs and sort of corporate. But for an undergraduate population, and even for your master students that are sort of being exemplars of what you want your undergraduate students to be out there, and I've sort of jokingly said it's out there with the geese, right? Which it is beautiful, but you're not immersed in the campus. And so I think to recruit and retain and really I mean, our sports management program is globally known, right? And everything that business infuses, it's a critical component of the access of the main campus. And so I think we sort of made the decision very early, we're going to make this move. Then it became about identifying funders. We've obviously been incredibly fortunate that we've announced some extraordinary, I mean, for one, it's the Pompea College of Business, but then Jens Martin and others that have really stepped up in monumental ways to bring it back and make it sort of comprehensively a part of the DNA of the university that it already is. So renderings on final stages, and next it'll be across from Railroad Salvage on that corner. So you really have this access of applied technology, advanced manufacturing, the engineering building, and then the new College of Business. So it's a key access.
Be all connected like a brand new quad, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
All right, so there's been a lot of cool things. You said you've been traveling the world, all these amazing things here for the University of New Haven. I think the one thing people are probably going to remember about this interview is this next question. You recently starred in a movie with Nicole Kidman. Now, there's a little bit to this story.
Humble brag is what they used to say.
The movie came out this year.
Say what?
But this happened before you got here. Would you please tell us this story of how you ended up in a movie with Nicole Kidman?
Yes, please do. I'm not aware of this, and I am all ears.
I end up in some. I'm one of those people that I tend to say yes to pretty much everything, but then I throw myself at it 100%. Not that I took acting, but so I used to work at a university in Nashville, and sort of a beautiful campus, and we would occasionally get inquiries from me from production companies, mostly for commercials, like, could we? And I always said yes, because I felt like, it showcases the campus, and you just never know. And so we got one inquiry, and I was under the presumption that it was some kind of commercial, and they came and I toured them, and a few weeks later I got a call, and they said, well, we sort of liked the site, but we met this guy Hans when we were there, and the director just thinks he would be great for this project.
They called you Hans?
Yeah, I quickly realized it was Hans. I think, fast forward, long story, I think there was some confusion around whether I was Danish or Dutch. I am Danish, different language. Movie is called Holland, Dutch. And so fast forward the whole thing. It was incredible. I guess they didn't sort of realize the magnitude of it. I remember showing up, quote unquote, on set, and they were sort of, you had to make it through security, and they asked what I was, whether I was an extra or whatever I was, and I was sort of perplexed, and then they realized I was an actor. And so I got my own trailer. At that point in time, I'm FaceTiming my wife. I'm like, honey, look at this. This is outrageous.
Oh, man.
I got on set, and still sort of completely befuddled by the magnitude of it and the people and so on and so forth. And I saw a couple of sort of famous people in the process, and then the scene finally arrives, and the director says to me that I was going to cue Nicole, and I sort of turn around, and it's Nicole Kidman. And so I stood up and I shook hands, and she said, "My name's Nicole," and I said, "I know," and I'm Jens.
I'm Hans.
Yeah. And so it was an incredibly, I got a letter from SAG, and so I'm semi-official. But I think it was a one and done project.
How many universities can say their president was in a scene with Nicole Kidman?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. In fact, when it finally came out, Sue brought sort of a copy of the scene, and it's really quite surreal. And I showed it, of course, to my kids, because it's mostly sort of a horror movie, I think. And so my kids can't watch it, but I froze frame when Daddy was in there. They were not as impressed as I'd hoped.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the movie is Holland. It's on Prime Video if you want to stream it.
Oh, I will be. Trust me.
That's a plug.
Yeah. Yes, you're welcome. You get some residuals, hopefully, from this.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I'm going to ensure that they're rolling in. That's so great.
And I speak in Dutch, and apparently, though people realize that I am not Dutch now, it sounds like I could have lived in Holland, according to...
So great.
Method actor, right? Get into his craft.
Exactly right. Yes.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
So we always say, not your average university president.
That's right.
Right? It's true. no truth to the rumor that the beard is for your next movie role? Every time I see you, the beard gets thicker.
Yeah, no, I said to somebody this morning, I said it's to hide the scarring from the past year.
Let me tell you something. As has been apparent from the past, 25 minutes, we're lucky to have you. We really are.
I appreciate it very much. It's been, I say it all the time, as I think Devin actually told me yesterday, that supposedly being a college president is the worst gig you could get, and I sort of said I fundamentally disagree, and at a place like, at the University of New Haven, it's an absolute dream. I come to work every day, and I hope that's reflected, and I think that's entirely true across the entire leadership team, and for everyone who's here. I think it's a special moment in time at an incredible institution that is so deeply needed to stand in the breach of kind of what we face. Yeah. So,
well said. Well said. Jens, thanks for being here as always. Appreciate you being on Charger 360.
This was a lot of fun.
Yes. Good way to end the week, right?
Good way to.
We peeled back the layers of that onion, didn't we?
We did. I'm glad you learned this story.
That's incredible. I can't wait to get home.
Trust me, you sneeze and you'll miss it.
That's great.
Jens Frederiksen, the president of the University of New Haven and budding movie star. As always, a pleasure that you're here, and again, congratulations on everything that you've accomplished for us, and we continue to accomplish as a university. Look forward to seeing you again later this season.
Thank you.
All right, that'll wrap up another episode of Charger 360, telling the stories of the University of New Haven. For Jens, for Bruce, I'm J-Dub. Remember, if you want to be on the show, just email Bruce or I, bbarber@newhaven.edu or jstewart@newhaven.edu. We'll see you next time, everyone.